they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream.
Right, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right, with that all been said, hello G from the land of Rhonda. All right, let's get into it. Lillian X, Claudette. All right, Peaceful Living. We the People, Nessa G, Danny Joe. All right, so shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuning into the Queen. And a big shout out to my moderators because y'all know they be putting in work. So before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes. All right, here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts, and you can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, and don't forget that she sells beard oil. Now, before we get into this documentary about these inmates being burned alive, let's first go to a couple of the war updates. Okay, everyone, please hit the like button. Don't forget to like and share. Also, double check to make sure you're still subscribed, especially if you have not been receiving the notifications.
Major news, a number of world leaders have come out and warned about what's to come next in the Iran war, with multiple of them saying that the information they have keeps them awake at night. That is certainly not something you ever want to hear. The South Korean president said the world is in turmoil over the energy crisis. The situation is so serious that it has even kept me up at night. The immediate problem is grave enough, but the outlook ahead seems even more unstable. The situation is worse than expected. Italy's defense minister said, I am forced to know things about what could happen in the coming week and the effects it will have on the economy and our daily lives that no longer allows me to sleep. So multiple leaders in different countries, in different positions of power, all saying the same thing, that things are about to get worse and it keeps them up at night. And you can thank Donald Trump for putting us in this situation.
Okay, so we absolutely have no one to thank but Trump. Now, let's go to this other news report from 13 News Now. USS George H.W. Bush carrier strike. The group leaves Naval. I can't see all of that because I'm not wearing my glasses. But anyway, let's go to it. And then also, I'm going to read this letter to you that the Marines received on the 26th. Clearly, they need more people enlisting. They say the enlistment numbers are down. Some soldiers have actually gotten into trouble, and they have been dropped down in rank, basically demoted, for getting on TikTok specifically and complaining about what's going on. Okay, and I'm not surprised. I knew that was going to happen. Okay, let's continue.
USS George H.W. Bush carrier strike group is headed to the Middle East for a scheduled deployment. Navy leaders say the crew has spent months preparing for this moment.
The men and women of this strike group have worked incredibly hard, and we're prepared to do the nation's bidding.
More than 4,500 sailors left Naval Station Norfolk Tuesday morning as part of USS George H.W. Bush carrier strike group. For security reasons, leaders did not say exactly where they are going, but operations could take them toward the Middle East. Dozens of families lined the pier to send their sailors off.
I'm just trying to be strong for him. It's really hard being away from someone like that.
Madison Costerico and her husband's father traveled from Arizona for this moment.
It's one of those days that you don't think it's going to happen, but we're glad that he's surrounded by really good men and women that can support and help him.
For one sailor, this deployment leaves her without a friend she started her naval career with.
We've been friends for 5 years. I met her on my first ship. Just do me a favor and stay safe out there.
The U.S. has now deployed 3 carrier strike groups to the Middle East. Crews aboard USS George H.W. Bush say they are learning from those missions in real time.
The destroyer, by its design, is a multi-mission destroyer that is capable of pivoting to any mission set it is assigned at a moment's notice. That's what makes it so capable and lethal.
In the end, naval leaders say their purpose is to serve this nation.
To our families, to our friends, and to the public that support everything that we do this for our country.
From Naval Station Norfolk, Jeremiah Beatty, 13 News Now.
Hey, now, this next report, they're talking about that Fatah missile that I told you all about. The Fatah 2 missile destroys U.S. military, and they say 12 officers killed. Now, I'm not sure if this is accurate, but what I will say is there was a video posted by the RIGC yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, and they absolutely said that they had taken out some soldiers. Now, I haven't heard the administration say anything about that, nor the mainstream media. If anyone else has, please let me know. But we already know how they're not being fully transparent and they're not telling us everything. So, hopefully it isn't true, but you never know.
Officers, 2 generals, 4 colonels, 3 lieutenant colonels, 3 majors were killed by a single weapon in a single strike. One hit, one moment, and everything the Pentagon told you about American invulnerability in this theater died with them. If you think you understand what happened over that command center in March 2026, I'm telling you right now, you don't, not yet, but you will by the time I'm done, and what you learn is going to fundamentally change how you see this war, this military, and the catastrophic miscalculation that put American commanders in the kill zone of a weapon they had 2 years of warning to take seriously. Let me be clear about something before we go any further. I spent years as a Marine Corps intelligence officer. I understand what a targeting package looks like. I understand what it means when an adversary selects a command and control node as a primary strike objective. And when I look at what Iran did with the Fatah 2 on that day in March, I don't see a lucky shot. I don't see an escalation that nobody could have predicted. I see the deliberate, methodical execution of a targeting doctrine that Iran has been developing and refining for years, while Washington's national security establishment was busy congratulating itself for a missile defense architecture that, as we now know with absolute certainty, cannot stop what Iran has built. This wasn't a battlefield surprise. It was a strategic indictment, and the men and women sitting in that command facility paid for it with their lives. To understand why this matters, not just tactically, not just in terms of the raw horror of the casualty figures, but strategically in ways that will define the shape of American military power for the next decade. You have to go back to where this conflict actually started, and more importantly, to the assumptions that drove the decision to start it. On February the 28th, 2026, the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury, a coordinated series of strikes aimed at dismantling Iran's nuclear infrastructure and degrading its advanced missile production capability. The public justification was surgical precision. The unstated reality, and I'm telling you this as someone who has studied targeting doctrine and intelligence assessments at the operational level, was that this was a race. Washington and Tel Aviv believed they could move fast enough, strike hard enough, and degrade Iran's most consequential weapon systems before those systems could be employed at scale. That bet was catastrophically wrong, and the Fatah 2 is the proof. Within hours of the opening American and Israeli strikes, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched its counter response. Now, here's where most of the mainstream media coverage gets it completely wrong. They covered the Iranian retaliation as a chaotic, furious volley, the rage response of a cornered regime lashing out.
Yeah, they're trying to make Iran sound like they're frantic, like they're so desperate they don't know what they're going to do, when clearly the shoe is on the other foot. Sadly, now here is Lion R's Keg's Breath telling us much of the same old same, just a bunch of word salad being spewed, okay, and just clearly putting on airs as far as I'm concerned.
The opportunity to visit our troops fighting in Operation Epic Fury. We were on the ground, in CENTCOM on Saturday for about half the day. For reasons of operational security, so those troops are not targeted, the places and bases will not be named. Suffice it to say, the trip was an honor. I had a chance to bear witness, and I witnessed the best of America. I witnessed warriors, a brotherhood of men and women, warriors all, active duty, guard, and reserve, united in their love for each other, their shared purpose, and their commitment to the mission. I witnessed sheer competency. I watched a private first class confidently calling out an enemy missile trajectory to a room full of officers.
Okay, I absolutely cannot. He's not talking about anything. All he's doing is spewing word salad, saying the same old same, acting like everything's fine. Let us know what's going on. How many casualties? How many injuries? Okay, are the troops on the ground yet? What's going on? That's what he needs to talk about. But he's always just gaslighting us and telling us a bunch of BS. Let's go to this former intelligence officer, okay, and what she has to say. Because we're getting nothing out of Keg's Breath but a bunch of BS. Quite frankly, I'm over it.
My name's Josephine Gilbo. I'm a former intelligence officer. I spent 17 years in the U.S. Army. I've held assignments as an intelligence officer at the DIA, the ODNI, NSA, and DHS. And of course, as an intelligence officer in the Army. I've held a top secret clearance with a polygraph, just to give you an idea of my access and experience when it comes to these assignments. One of my many duties along the way has been counterterrorism. I was a counterterrorism officer in the U.S. Army. And I want to give you the definition of terrorism as we use it here in the United States. Terrorism is the premeditated use of violence or threat of violence against civilians or property to induce fear, coercion, or intimidation aimed at government or societies to achieve political, religious, or ideological objectives. Given this information, we're going to focus back now to the bombing of Manab. 165 little girls were killed by United States Tomahawks from a United States vessel in the area of operation. A modern Tomahawk missile is equipped with onboard cameras, real-time targeting imagery. Satellite imagery is constantly collected by several intelligence agencies, several countries in real time. Let's talk about what that satellite imagery would show of the Manab little girls' school. Murals. The entire school was surrounded by colorful children painting flower, bright color murals surrounded this school.
Let me stop right there. Do you all remember that I told you that it's no way they did this on an accident? It had to be intentional because that school was painted pink and blue. Okay, that school was painted pink and blue, and there were things outside like a playground and things like that that would clearly let someone know that is a school or facility where children were housed. Okay, now let's continue.
And it was without a doubt a school if you looked at it through satellite imagery. It was without a doubt a school when you looked at it through the onboard camera of the Tomahawk missile. It was clear. Now let's talk about when the attack started on Iran. 10 a.m. At 10 a.m., Israel, along with the United States, began attacking Iran. By 10:20, the staff at Manab school began evacuating the children. Strike one. Hit the school. The kids moved to the prayer room. Strike two. Hit the prayer room. 163 kids dead. Strike three. Hit nearby. Multiple sources, including intelligence reports, regional sources, and U.S. officials are required to confirm a target for the U.S. Navy and military operations to ensure accuracy and reduce errors. This is how it works. This is how it worked that day. NBC News reports USS Sprunitz, a guided missile destroyer, shot the Tomahawk. Commander Leigh R. Tate, Executive Officer Jeffrey E. York, commanded USS Sprunitz, who shot a Tomahawk and killed 165 little girls.
Hold on, beloveds. Okay, I cut that off a little bit too quick because she was talking about next. They did another strike, but isn't that awful? So they hit the school, they struck the school, and then when the kids went to the prayer room, they struck the prayer room. Okay, they knew exactly what they were doing. Is that a coincidence that they hit the school when the kids were being evacuated? They were taken to the prayer room. They hit the prayer room because they knew where they were going, because they could clearly see. And like I told you all, the tomahawk is very accurate and precise. So there's no way. Either they would have to be bumbling idiots to not know what target they were hitting. Okay, but they absolutely knew. Please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, a couple more clips. And also, by the way, Trump has ticked off the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, who he just had at the White House, mind you. Okay, now he's ticked him off. Okay, it doesn't take long before Trump gets into it with everybody. And now they're talking smack. Okay, please pay attention.
Got a call from one of my buddies. He's active duty Air Force stationed at Anderson Base in Guam. And what he told me, you're not going to hear it in the news. Follow and hear this all the way through. He's been active duty for 12 years, a staff sergeant in logistics stationed at Anderson Air Force Base. He's not some intel officer. He's the guy who sees what gets loaded, when, and how fast. And right now, he says it's different. He said, quote, something big is coming. They've never moved this much gear this fast without broadcasting it to allies. Over the last 72 hours, he's watched entire fleets get repositioned, fuel dumps refilled, runway activity spiking at 3 a.m., and aircraft normally stored for inspection suddenly prepped and rolled out. Then he said the line that shook me. They're loading like we're not coming back. Now, maybe it's just a drill or some routine op that we're not cleared to know about. But you tell me, why the silence? Why the urgency? And why now? If you've got military friends seeing anything weird, comment below.
Okay, they're getting really desperate too, because there are people saying that they're getting calls, okay, to come back into service. And I told you all that, I believe, yesterday. But let's go to this letter that some of the Marines say they received on the 26th. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see this. This is from a lieutenant general. So if you're winning a war, you don't have to do all of this. This is how you know they're desperate. And like I told you all the other day, they've raised the limit. Okay, you usually would have to be no older than 35, but now they've upped it to 42. Okay, this is how desperate they are. They want people almost 50 joining the military at this point. Okay, now this is what it says, dated March 26th. Marines, our nation is in a consequential moment. Global events are shaping our nation's security, and we must be ready. I ask you directly, are you truly ready to deploy, fight, and win? Are your skills sharp, your standards high, and your gear prepared for immediate movement? Is your desert MARPAT readily available? Is your gear packed and ready to pick up and move? Or is it stored away in a corner of your home? Are your family affairs in order? Say what now? When the call comes, readiness will be assumed, not questioned. Your readiness is not a declaration, it is a daily commitment. This is not a theoretical exercise. Our forces are currently engaged in operations connected to Iran and are positioned to preserve stability in the Western Hemisphere. Our enemies get a vote, and a mass mobilization could become reality. We are operating in this environment now. History demands our readiness today, tomorrow, and every day. Your preparation for combat is forged in your daily actions, your training, and the seriousness with which you handle every responsibility. We're measured not by our intentions, but by what we can do right now. Check your readiness, tighten your standards, prepare your family. Our nation expects a disciplined, capable force ready for immediate action. That force is Marine Forces Reserve. That standard begins with and must be held by you. Fights on. This is signed a Lieutenant General of the U.S. Marine Corps, Commander, Marine Forces Reserve, and Marine Forces South, Leonard F. Anderson IV. All right? So you all see that. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about before we start this documentary, which is about 1 hour and 10 minutes long, we're going to go to this report about Trump ticking off the Saudi prince. Like up, everyone, please. Don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, here we go.
Let's turn to the Gulf states now, specifically to Saudi Arabia. They invested a lot in Donald Trump's presidency, whether it's funding his son-in-law's business company or building Trump properties in Riyadh or pumping in billions of dollars into the US economy. All of this was done with a clear aim, to have significant influence over the US president. That was missing with Trump's predecessor. Joe Biden promised to turn Saudi Arabia into a pariah state. He also cut off military sales to the kingdom. So with Trump back in the White House, Riyadh saw an opportunity. But looks like Trump has other ideas. Over the weekend, he took a swipe at the Saudi crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. Listen to what he said.
A short time ago, a man that we just discussed, the king, the future king of Saudi Arabia, and I also love the king of Saudi Arabia, what a man he is. When I was there, we bonded. And he looked at me and he said, you know, it's amazing. 1 year ago, you were a dead country. Now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. He didn't think this was going to happen. He didn't think it'd be kissing. He really didn't. He thought he'd be just another American president that was a loser.
I'm sure.
Did y'all hear that? What this idiot said? He clearly said the man is kissing his ASS. He said he didn't think that he would be kissing his ASS, Trump's ASS. Do y'all hear this? And then said he thought he was going to be dealing with a president that was a loser or something. Trump is an idiot. But let's continue.
Well, the Saudi crown prince wasn't thrilled by that. But what exactly is Trump talking about? Possibly the war in West Asia. Multiple reports say MBS wants to continue the war in West Asia. He's asking Trump, in fact, to keep bombing the regime. Why? Because he wants to permanently remove the Iranian threat. He wants the regime and its missiles to be destroyed. But here's a question. Why hasn't Saudi Arabia joined the war? Iran has fired dozens of ballistic missiles at the kingdom. They've launched nearly 500 suicide drones. So why hasn't Riyadh hit back? Forget hitting back. They won't even allow the US to use their airspace or bases. Why? Because of the risk. Saudi Arabia has a lot to lose in this war. Around 70% of their drinking water comes from desalination plants. If those plants are hit, entire cities could be crippled. Same with their economy. Oil makes up 40% of the Saudi GDP. If oil refineries are hit, it could take years to rebuild. So MBS wants to insulate his country from the fighting. He wants to protect his strategic sites. At the same time, he wants the Iranian regime to be toppled. So do you see the problem there? MBS has a clear objective in this war, but he's not actually fighting it. And if you're not fighting the war, you have no control over how it ends. This may explain why MBS is wooing Trump. But what if Trump ignores him? What if he wraps up the fighting and pursues talks? Riyadh is wary of that as well. They are leading a diplomatic push at the Gulf Cooperation Council. The Gulf states want to be involved in the talks.
We emphasize the necessity of involving the GCC countries in any talks or agreements to resolve this crisis in a way that contributes to strengthening their security and stability and ensures that such attacks are not repeated.
That's the backup plan. Riyadh will want concrete security guarantees, basically insurance against any future attacks. Of course, that alone isn't enough. For a long time, these Gulf countries depended on the US security shield. They hosted American soldiers in American bases. Their thinking was quite clear. The American presence would deter attacks on their soil. But in the last few years, that belief has been shattered. Last year, Israel launched airstrikes on Doha. This year, Iran has hit locations across the Gulf. So clearly, the US presence wasn't enough. So what will they do now? Chances are Riyadh will bet on diversification. Last year, they signed a mutual defense pact with Pakistan. It was described as a NATO-like deal. Some reports said Pakistan would even share its nuclear arsenal. Then last week, Riyadh hosted the Ukrainian president. They signed a defense agreement with Kyiv.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. But one more thing. Listen, do you all remember the lady, the Karen, who actually had the Guatemalan immigrants come and do the work on her roof, and then she called the police on them? Remember her? Well, she got arrested. I was just looking for the arrest video. I thought I shared it on my ex. But yeah, she absolutely got arrested. Okay? And I find it all interesting. Hold on. And also, it's important to note that lockdowns, I do believe lockdowns are coming soon, beloveds. Okay, I think lockdowns are coming soon. Now, we'll talk about Karen in the morning because I don't feel like looking for that video right now. I thought it was on my ex account, but clearly it isn't. So let's get into this documentary. And mind you, I haven't watched this. Okay, I've been waiting to watch it so we can all watch it together. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. And here's the thing. She supposedly got arrested because her name is Karen Trevino. Her name's literally Karen. Okay, that's what she is. But she supposedly hired these Guatemalans to work on the roof for her father. It was her father's house, if I'm not mistaken. And so then it was a $10,000 job. They worked for 3 days. And then right when they were finishing up, she called the police, okay, to have them, or not the police, but called ICE to avoid paying them. But what happened was the person who they worked and contracted for, that person, when he found out what she did, well, he pressed charges on her for exploitation, basically, okay, because you can't just get somebody, trick people into doing something and then to avoid paying them. Okay, so yeah, she got arrested, and good for her. Okay, lockdowns for what reason, Queen? I'm not exactly sure, but lockdowns are coming. Please pay attention. They're already talking about Trump's deploying the National Guard to different cities. Okay, we already have ICE. Something's about to happen. That's likely why. Remember, I keep telling you all about a supposed false flag. That's just what I'm thinking. There's nothing to confirm that, but that's just what I'm telling you. So it's best to be on the safe side rather than sorry, and get your house in order and get your things together and follow your lifelines. Thank you for your question and your comment to the chat, or your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Let's just say that I can feel it in my spirit. Okay, that's why. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So let's get into it.
To a kid struggling to stay focused in school and never miss practice, a good meal makes all the difference in what kind of tears are shed. Together we can end hunger in Georgia. Donate to the Atlanta Community Food Bank today.
Josh wasn't always an innocent person. He was a good person that did dumb things.
I've cried every day since my brother passed.
How did your brother die?
By fire. He was trapped in a cell.
I started seeing smoke. Everybody started yelling, "Hey, fire, fire, fire."
Nobody's there.
Nobody responded. Where are they? Did you get a call about that fire?
No, we did not.
Something don't add up.
The fire may have happened accidentally, but my brother dying was deliberate.
That guy did not have to die.
They just walked away from him.
Do you recall any other fires?
Oh, man, a lot of fires. Sparks is shooting
I
out.
thought changes were going to be made. How did this happen? Again.
Have you gotten any answers to that question?
No. If nothing's done about it, people are going to keep dying.
A person is getting roasted to death. This is real life stuff. There's a whole different world in it.
Nobody deserved to die that way. Nobody.
It's horrifying. Among the worst things that I've ever seen. I hope people don't turn away.
Indiana State Prison in Michigan City. It's the state's oldest and some say toughest prison. And what happens inside these walls often stays a secret. That is, unless someone's willing to talk about it.
Now, I'm glad to talk to you about this because I need to talk to somebody.
They messed up here.
They didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Somebody gonna get hurt.
There are hundreds of inmates in this maximum security prison. Some are sentenced to life. For others, this prison is unknowingly a death sentence.
It was Saturday morning, and I woke up to my mother screaming. And it was a scream I never heard before, so I ran downstairs. She was just on the floor. She said, "They killed my baby."
Crystal Devine's brother, Josh, died inside the Indiana State Prison back in 2017.
I've cried every day since my brother passed.
Josh was just 2 years younger than Crystal. They were best friends.
We had a nickname for each other, Twin Face, because we looked so much alike.
Crystal and Josh grew up in this neighborhood on the east side of Indianapolis. She says it was a rough childhood, especially after their dad died. Josh was just 2.
He was small, skinny, scrawny, big teeth with a gap. So he got picked on sometimes, and I was very defensive. We might fight at home and wrestle and do all those things at home, but you didn't mess with my little brother.
Crystal remembers celebrating birthdays and holidays together, swimming with her brother at Ellenberger Park, and their first trip outside Indiana to go visit an aunt in Florida.
We just absolutely loved it. It was like one of the best experiences ever to be able to go to the beach every day.
The good times did not last long. Josh was hungry, so he started stealing food, then robbing people for money. By the time Josh was a teenager, he was constantly in and out of juvenile detention.
Josh wasn't always an innocent person. He was always, he was a good person that did dumb things.
In 2005, Josh pleaded guilty to possession of marijuana. The following year, he was arrested for robbery, and he went to prison. And when Josh got out on parole, he was arrested for another attempted robbery. That was 2012.
That was the last year that he was free.
A Marion County judge sent Josh back to prison, a 16-year sentence. That's how he ended up in Michigan City.
We never lost our bond to each other. We wrote each other a lot. We talked on the phone a lot.
What'd you guys talk about?
What life would be like when he got home. He wanted to start a family. Talked about how we would leave Indiana one day and go live somewhere where we could be at the beach all the time, anytime we wanted to.
Crystal says for her brother, it was more than just a dream.
There was freedom. The water makes you feel free.
But for Josh, there would be no freedom. And there would be no water when he needed it most.
How did your brother die?
By fire. He was trapped in a cell.
April 7th, 2017. Josh was assigned to B cell house up on the top floor. According to an incident report from Indiana State Police, all inmates were locked in their cells for the night when fire was first seen in Josh's cell around 9:35. One of the prison supervisors said flames were shooting out like a fire-breathing dragon.
It sounded like a blowtorch.
Lee Miller lived just one cell over from Josh, up on the 500 range, and he says he'll never forget that night.
I remember. I almost burned up in my cell. The fire came over into my cell. I'm laying on the floor. You got the flames coming around the corner, coming into the top of my cell. I was terrified.
Photos from the state fire marshal show what was left inside cell 540. That right there is the toilet. Next to it is an electrical outlet. And over there, that's Josh's bed. A state police investigator wrote this cell was completely burnt. And by the time guards got Josh out of his cell, so was he.
I actually seen Joshua laying on the range. They pulled him out the cell.
Josh had second and third degree burns covering his entire body. The very next day, Indiana State Prison sent a press release claiming the deadly fire inside Josh's cell was started by Josh. And some prison staff claimed the fire was the result of Josh cooking methamphetamine inside his cell.
I just know it wasn't. He wasn't doing any of those things they tried to say he was.
She's right. Testing of Josh's cell showed no signs of any drugs, and a state fire marshal investigation determined the fire was accidental, probably caused by an electrical event that started around his TV.
Now, do you all see how they lied on this young man? Said that he was in there cooking up illegal substances? This is absolutely so deplorable. Let's continue. Sorry for interrupting.
So crushing.
Crystal cannot stop thinking about the fire.
And I've had nightmares about it. Of me trying to save my brother and I can't never get to him.
And nearly 9 years later, it also still impacts the inmates who witnessed the fire.
It's been with me forever.
Nightmares, and you still hear the screaming.
Sound like a toddler screaming for his mother.
The way he screamed in agony. I mean, a person is getting roasted to death.
And while they're still haunted by what happened, they say what really terrifies them is what did not happen.
Why are they not coming? Where are they?
They chose not to come. They chose. It was a choice.
Did you get a call about that fire?
No, we did not.
Something don't add up with these fires.
The fire may have happened accidentally, but my brother dying, it was deliberate.
Nobody deserved to die that way. Nobody.
And it's something the prison does not want to talk about. You're about to see why.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me and my family serve.
You make all of this possible.
And we are truly grateful.
Your prayers and your giving are making an impact on the world for Christ.
Josh Devine burned to death inside his locked prison cell.
I don't understand that. And I don't think I ever will.
Years later, his family and fellow inmates are still trying to process what happened.
None of this make any sense.
I think that could have been prevented.
They messed up here.
You're about to learn what took place the night Josh died. The Indiana Department of Correction has surveillance video which shows exactly what happened. It also has internal investigation reports. But the department won't release any of it, claiming that would jeopardize prison security. So we got details another way. With the help of legal documents, eyewitness interviews, and thousands of pages of internal records, we assembled a detailed timeline that reveals the massive systemic failures that led to a horrifying death. Within the walls of Indiana State Prison, each inmate is assigned to a specific housing unit. On the day of the fire, B Cell House was just about full. The Department of Correction denied our request to go inside the cell house for this investigation. But years ago, our cameras were allowed in. So using those prior visits, historical photographs, and internal prison documents, we created a 3D model of B Cell House so you can see inside. There are 230 cells divided between 5 floors. Each floor is referred to as a range, with 23 cells facing the north and 23 facing south. Along the outside edge of each range is a narrow walkway, and that is bordered by a reinforced metal fence. The only way to get up and down between the floors is by stairs at each end of the cell house, and on each floor, locked gates separate the cells and the stairs. Correctional officers must unlock those gates before they or inmates can move from one floor to the next. And each floor has its own separate keys. All of that's important, and we built this model to help you understand where inmates and staff were at the time of the fire. Josh Devine was here in cell 540, and right next door,
Yeah, he was my neighbor.
Lee Miller was in 538. Straight down, in 338, was Michael Gianfano.
He was 2 ranges above me, but I was right below him.
And a little further down from there,
My name's Dustin McGuire.
My name is Oscar Hall.
Dustin was in cell 242, Oscar in 138, and Lee Travis Griffin was up in cell 430. He says all of the inmates on the north side of B's cell house could see Josh clearly on the night of the fire.
I can look into his cell, he can look into my cell from the windows.
These windows that line the entire length of B's cell house, inmates say they served as a mirror, clearly reflecting exactly what played out on the night Josh died. So here's what happened, according to our interviews with these inmates, as well as the official incident report from the state fire marshal, and thousands of pages of depositions showing what prison staff saw on the night of the fire. There were 3 correctional officers assigned to B cell house on April 7th. One was designated officer in charge, but all of them were new to the prison, averaging less than 6 months on the job. Records show at 9:05 p.m., the officer with the keys to the 500 range, the one marked there in red, she walked past Josh's cell while conducting the nightly inmate count. And according to that officer, Josh said he was doing fine. The count was completed at 9:06, and at that time, all inmates were locked in their cells for the night. At 9:33, all 3 officers were down on the first floor, 2 of them filling out payroll forms in an office, while the officer in charge stayed inside the officer's station on the other side of the range. A minute later, at 9:34, back in Josh's cell, investigation reports say surveillance video showed a large flash of light. Lee Miller could tell something was wrong next door.
I was smelling smoke. I said, "You all right over there?" He said, "You got some water?" I said, "No, everybody locked in. We got some water." He said, "I got a little fire going on."
Others started to notice too.
I smelled the smoke. I started seeing smoke.
I said, "Did you get that out?" He said, "Man, I can't put it out." That's when I started yelling. We got a fire in 540.
Everybody started hollering, fire on 500.
Hey, fire, fire, fire.
People are yelling fire. That's just what we do. If people need help, we holler. We make a lot of noise until the guards come. That's how we get their attention.
But despite all the screaming,
Nobody's there.
Nobody responded.
9:36, 9:37, 9:38, and still no correctional officers.
We've been yelling for seemed like eternity. Where you guys at?
And as each second, each minute passes, the fire is growing. By 9:40, 5 minutes after the fire started, surveillance cameras clearly showed both smoke and fire inside the cell, with Josh still locked inside.
I could see him, standing at his bars, and I could see the fires behind him. And then he's yelling, screaming.
And as Josh's screams got louder, inmates say so did theirs.
And I'm like, why ain't no officer coming? I'm sure they hear the whole cell house is yelling by this time.
There was absolutely no way that they couldn't have heard that. I don't care where you're at in that building.
But the 2 officers working on their timesheets down in the first floor office, they told investigators at that point they didn't hear anything. 9:41, 9:42, 9:43. That's when the officer in charge down in the guard station said he first noticed inmates yelling about the fire. At 9:44, he climbed the front stairs all the way to the top and then made his way down to cell 540, where Josh was pleading for help. The officer said the back of the cell was covered in flames from one end of the wall to the other, with Josh clinging to the bars at the front of the cell, screaming. Lee Miller says what the correctional officer did next is something he'll never forget.
He looked at me, looked at him, and walked and went the other way.
The officer in charge did not let Josh out of his burning cell because, well, he didn't have the right key. He had keys only for cells on the first floor. All the keys for up here on the 5th floor, those were down with one of the other guards down in the office. And all of the fire extinguishers, those were down on the 1st floor too. So the officer in charge had to use his radio to ask his fellow officers to bring him fire extinguishers and keys. But there was another problem. His radio wasn't working.
Oh my God, how stupid are these people? Do you all hear this? This is absolutely egregious. So he came up there, no keys, and he said he heard them yelling fire. I'm sorry, common sense should have told him to come back with the fire extinguisher and the keys. He knew he was going to a higher level floor than what he had the keys to. This doesn't even sound right. Okay, this doesn't even sound right. If you heard them yelling about a fire and you don't have keys to let whoever it is out, nor a fire extinguisher, it would make sense to go get that first. And he was already on the 1st floor. Like, this is crazy. This is really ticking me off.
Now, with precious moments ticking away, the officer headed back down the stairs to yell for help from the other guards. At 9:44, 10 minutes after the fire first started, the 2 guards working on their timesheets come out to the range after hearing the officer in charge screaming their names. One of the guards ran upstairs to help the officer in charge. She used her radio to call a signal 1071. That's the code for fire, alerting all prison staff in all cell houses all across the prison that
I'm not going to keep interrupting, but why didn't the first guard do that? When he said that he heard them yelling fire, why didn't he get on well, his radio wasn't working, but if he's on the 1st floor, he should have been able to get another radio. And obviously, it likely wasn't working because he didn't charge it. He didn't check the battery during his shift. That's likely what happened. So stupid. Let's continue.
there was an emergency. But the other guard, the one with the keys to Josh's cell, she was told to stay by the cell house door down on the 1st floor to let first responders into the cell house when they arrived. Why the keys to unlock Josh's cell were left downstairs with her? We don't know. About a minute and a half later, at 9:46, supervisors and first responders entered B cell house. One grabbed the keys, another got fire extinguishers from the guard station, and they all ran up to 500 to try to unlock Josh's cell. But by then, 12 minutes after the fire started, it was too late.
When they finally got up there, the man's cell was fully engulfed to the point that it looked like a butane torch.
It looked like the air itself in his cell was on fire. It's something that you would see in a movie, and it was real life.
9:47.
Okay, this is so distressing to even listen to. I can only imagine how the prisoners who witnessed this, how they are still traumatized. This is traumatizing me just hearing it. Okay, this is absolutely crazy. And I think they're lying. None of this stuff they're saying makes any sense. Why would the person who had the keys stay downstairs with the keys? Somebody else couldn't do it? Or they couldn't have her give the keys to whoever was going upstairs? Like, none of this makes a bit of sense. This is absolutely crazy. I think they let this man die on purpose. Can you imagine the yelling and screaming and the pain that he was in? My God, this is absolutely low down.
15 minutes after the fire started,
I got on the floor, on my belly.
as Lee Miller tried to hide from the flames that were now shooting into his cell next door.
I was terrified. I just thought I was going to burn up.
The correct keys finally made it up to the top floor. Supervisors arrived at Josh's cell with the keys and fire extinguishers. The cell door was now unlocked, but it would not open enough for Josh to get out. One of the supervisors described Josh's last moments. When he reached out and grabbed the door and tried to push, like I literally watched the skin on his hands peel back because it got so hot. And then he fell to his knees and he died. Stopped talking. There was fire coming out of his mouth. 9:49, 15 minutes after the first signs of trouble, prison staff are trying to put out the fire in Josh's cell. According to a lieutenant, it took them 5 more minutes and several more fire extinguishers before the flames disappeared.
There was no more fire, and he stopped yelling. So I said, oh. And once I saw that the fire had just went black, there was no more fire, and it's just black everywhere, and he stopped yelling, I knew he was dead by then.
Josh was dead, and 20 minutes after the fire started, the emergency was still far from over. "9:56, inside Indiana State Prison. It's been more than 20 minutes since fire broke out in cell 540. Josh Devine is no longer screaming, and B cell house is filled with choking smoke, with more than 200 inmates still locked in their cells.
The building was so full of smoke that you couldn't see.
You couldn't see nothing.
Couldn't see anything.
It was like black.
I'm coughing up blood. I'm coughing up soot.
I was scared for my own life.
I was thinking I was going to die because I couldn't get out.
Did you get a call about that fire?
No, we did not.
Jeff Bruder is fire marshal at the Michigan City Fire Department. Station number 1 sits about a half mile, just 2 minutes from the prison.
They make the decision whether they need to call us or not. And if it's a fire that they can handle, they will definitely handle it. If not, then that's when we're called in.
But there was no 911 call from the prison that night. Why did the Indiana State Prison not call for outside help when a prisoner was burning to death inside his cell, when the entire cell house was filled with dangerous smoke? Well, because Indiana State Prison has its own fire station right on site. It sits about 30 steps from B cell house, where inmates were screaming for help. And the prison has its own on-site firefighters, inmates who have the latest training and equipment to fight fires. In fact, one of those firefighters was in B cell house, cell 126, the whole time Josh's cell was on fire.
But they didn't open his door.
He was not released from his cell?
No, he didn't get out, let out until everybody else did.
Why?
I don't know why. That man knew what to do. And had he been out, I think at the initial, hey, there's a fire up here, Josh would still be alive today.
More inmate firefighters were scattered across other cell houses, all locked in their cells, until 9:45, 10 minutes after the fire started. That's when a prison supervisor ordered their cells to be opened so they could fight the fire. But there were more delays. After firefighters got out of their cells, it took another 3 to 5 minutes for correctional officers to let them leave their cell houses. And then they had to wait several more minutes outside the locked firehouse. All their firefighting gear sat inside, useless, until a supervisor showed up with a key.
I was pissed off. I was mad, because I know if you let us do our job, we'd do our job.
Don Mahone is an inmate, and he was assistant fire chief on the night of the fire. As he entered B cell house, he remembers hitting a thick wall of smoke on the 3rd floor, where inmates were pleading for help.
They were screaming, telling me they can't breathe, help, help, help. So I go back downstairs and I tell them, I say, hey man, we got to get these guys out of the cell.
Don then made his way up to the 500 range. He said communication between the staff and the firefighters was so bad, he had no clue what to expect when he finally made it to Josh's cell, more than 20 minutes after the fire started.
I had no idea nobody was in that cell. I just couldn't fathom if somebody was in there. And if somebody in the cell, I always tell them, the first thing to do is get him out of that cell. Don't worry about no fire extinguisher. Get him out that cell. Open that door.
That did not happen, which led not only to Josh's death, but also to a small riot. When staff finally started evacuating the cell house, 25 minutes after inmates first started yelling for help, tempers were short and tensions were high.
Inmates were angry.
Yo, they was real angry. real angry because they felt that he was allowed to get burned up in a cell.
The anger was about that the help didn't come. They had let that man die in that room.
It was way too long. It took way too long.
The response was as if someone had stubbed their toe as opposed to a man being on fire.
Josh was still alive. Those few moments, if he had brought those keys with him, that man, I wouldn't be here, sir. I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
They just walked away from him. They could have saved him then. They just walked away. My brother could be free today. If they had just made the choice to save his life.
The officers' choices on the night of the fire, those aren't the only choices that might have cost Josh his life. Buried deep inside documents and depositions, we discovered other disturbing decisions at the prison have been going on for years.
People dying from human error.
This ain't the first time.
Just ahead, life-threatening problems at the prison that can be traced back more than a century.
I seen it with my own eyes. I'm like, wow.
And the chilling consequences for
Hold on, I'm not sure what happened. Did I accidentally do that? Hold on. This is so infuriating.
January 14th, 2023, nearly 6 years since Josh Devine died in his prison cell, and Indiana State Prison still defending itself against claims it failed to prevent a death, did not do what they should have done in response to the drills at least 4 times each year, in every cell house and on every shift. And these fire drill reports also raise questions. They claim full-scale fire drills did occur on every shift in the months leading up to the deadly fire, with hundreds of prisoners evacuated from each cell house so inmates and staff could practice what to do in a real emergency. This report shows a nighttime drill with a full evacuation in B cell house less than 3 weeks before the fire that killed Josh. But despite what's recorded in these reports, the officers assigned to B cell house testified they never saw any fire drill evacuations on the night shift. And this inmate firefighter told us the same thing.
At nighttime, no. They wouldn't let nobody out at nighttime.
So there were fire drills, but no one was released from their cell?
I don't know why. I don't want to speculate, but they didn't do it.
How much good is a fire drill if you're not letting people out of their cells?
You ask the firefighter, I'm gonna say it ain't good, but I ain't in charge. They feel that that's sufficient. I didn't believe it was, but they did.
Instead of actual fire drills, inmate firefighters said guards were given quarterly exams to see if they knew what to do during a fire. The guards in B cell house did not know what to do, according to a firefighter who tested them shortly before the fire in cell 540. The firefighter reported they took it as a joke. They failed. Every one of them failed. As a matter of fact, one of the officers made the statement that if there was a fire, she was going to run out the front door. The lack of knowledge and preparation was exposed when fire broke out in Josh's cell. The prison's inmate fire chief reported all of the officers in B cell house were panicking because they weren't sure on what they had to do.
None of them knew what they was doing.
I think it goes back to the training or the lack thereof.
Didn't seem like the staff was prepared.
Oh, they wasn't ready for that.
And even a few weeks after the fire, when the officer in charge of B cell house took another fire drill exam, he failed again. We got a copy of the exam. It shows a score of 4 and says the officer doesn't know anything. And while staff did not get proper training, we discovered the prison did not get proper inspections. Indiana law requires the state fire marshal's office to inspect state prisons every year, but records show At the time of this fire, B Cell House had not been inspected by the state fire marshal since 2010, a full 7 years. And the local fire marshal in Michigan City?
Do you conduct fire safety inspections over at the Indiana State Prison?
No.
Why?
State property. I have no jurisdiction there.
He says he's not really allowed in the prison. Well, unless they invite him, which they don't.
No.
So for years, the prison was inspecting itself with questionable results. Just take a look at these fire inspection reports filed by supervisors in the years leading up to the deadly fire. They show B Cell House getting high marks for fire safety, a rating of 4 or 5 on every inspection. That means prison staff said the facility met or exceeded standards for its safety equipment, such as fire extinguishers, fire alarms, and its fire sprinkler system. Just one problem.
There's no fire sprinklers in the cell houses.
There are no sprinkler systems in ISPs.
And yet, week after week, month after month, year after year, supervisors inspected, rated, and signed off on a cell house sprinkler system that doesn't even exist.
They don't make any sense.
I feel like they don't care.
Confused about how the prison deals with fires and angry about the lack of accountability,
It could have been prevented.
Josh's family decided to fight back with a lawsuit in federal court, and it revealed some surprising new details.
I couldn't believe it.
It's horrifying.
But with new discoveries, would the prison make changes in time to prevent another tragedy?
This all just sounds real crazy.
See, and I keep seeing him laying on that range. I just keep seeing him laying on that range. That guy did not have to die.
After Josh Devine burned to death in his prison cell, it took the Indiana State Prison less than a month to complete an internal investigation. Department of Correction investigators wrote they cannot find any violations of policy or procedure or misconduct by any staff before or during the fire emergency. The investigation was sent to the warden and closed. Josh's family still needed answers.
How did the prison explain things to you and your family?
They just confirmed that he passed away and wouldn't answer any other questions. So honestly, I would really like to see people be held accountable for the actions they don't take.
So in 2018, the family filed a federal lawsuit against the warden, several prison supervisors, and the correctional officers assigned to B Cell House. The lawsuit claimed the state workers failed to protect Josh, alleging his wrongful death was the result of negligence and a violation of his rights.
There's absolutely no reason at all that he should have suffered the way he did.
He was not sentenced to death. There's no way that he was supposed to die in prison.
Locke Bowman is one of the attorneys hired to represent Josh.
Literally, he died because staff didn't do their job, hadn't been trained to do their job, and a preventable tragedy happened.
The lawsuit meant all the officers and supervisors who responded to the fire were deposed, required to answer questions under oath. Nearly every one of them praised the response, saying they did everything they could, gave their best, and wouldn't do anything different. Sentiments shared by the warden.
Good morning, men. I'm Ron Neal, superintendent here at the Indiana State Prison.
We obtained this video through an open records request. It shows the warden speaking directly to inmates shortly after Josh died.
Thankfully, B Cell House was evacuated quickly.
Insisting there was no negligence, the state attorney general's office vigorously defended the prison and its staff. The state filed legal briefs claiming all the defendants responded appropriately and acted reasonably under the chaotic and high-pressure circumstances. The AG's office.
Now, a way for them to prove that that's all lies and BS is to simply look at the test results. They all failed. It said they took it as a joke. It said that one guard knew nothing. At the end of the day, these people didn't give a darn. Okay? They didn't give a darn, and that's why they didn't take it seriously. Everything that could have gone wrong did.
argued supervisors took appropriate steps to minimize fire risks, and it said correctional staff took courageous action, performed heroically, and even put their own lives at risk while responding to the fire. Despite those claims, testimony from some of the prison's own staff painted a much different picture of what happened during the fire. One of the responding officers testified that panicked staff members in B's cell house did not do what they should have done in response to the fire. The officer in charge said he was confused and concerned that his fellow officers did not respond to inmates yelling for help, testifying that those two officers just didn't pay attention to what was going on. And one of those officers admitted, "I felt really horrible because I felt like I didn't do enough." Also, powerful words from the fire chief of the inmate fire brigade. The prison would not let us see the report he wrote immediately after Josh's fire, but it's directly quoted in his deposition. The fire chief wrote, "That poor man sat in his cell screaming for help. The staff's inability to take fire seriously by not getting us out in a timely manner is partially responsible for that man's death." Keep in mind, records show after the fire started in cell 540, it took 8 minutes for a guard to go investigate the problem and 12 minutes to get the right key up to the 5th floor to unlock Josh's cell. What impact would a delay like that have?
Massive. There's subject in there. You're going to want to get that door open as fast as you can to make sure you could at least give them a chance.
Seconds count. You're a jailer. The first piece of equipment that matters for you is the keys. Not having the keys is a serious failure of responsibility.
So, when the Attorney General's office asked a federal judge to dismiss the case without a trial, the judge issued a very strong opinion, calling some of the Attorney General's arguments unconvincing and even absurd. Chief Judge John DiGiulio wrote, "A reasonable jury could find that the correctional officers were deliberately indifferent, based on how much time it took them to respond while inmates were screaming to get their attention." As far
I absolutely agree. They were indifferent because they didn't give a darn. And how you know that they didn't care is because listen to what the first witness said. He said that when the guy came upstairs, he looked at him, looked at Josh, and then looked at him, and then turned and walked away. Why are you walking when that man's cell is on fire? Why are you walking, period? You should be running. If you didn't have the keys or whatever you needed, you should have been running. Also, it still makes no sense because he literally said that he heard the people screaming about a fire. So I'm sorry, you didn't think to get the keys and an extinguisher first? This is complete incompetence. I hope all of them should have been fired. Okay, they need to be in jail if you ask me, but they definitely should have been fired.
As far as the warden and prison supervisors, the judge said each one of them was aware of an abundant number of safety hazards, including the widespread persistent issues with fires and electrical outlets sparking. The judge took issue with dangerous policies at Indiana State Prison and dangerous lapses in enforcing policy, specifically pointing out some of the problems we've told you about: broken radios, no sprinklers, and no fire drills on the night shift. The judge ruled he would not dismiss the case against the warden and most of the other defendants. The court set a trial date for July 2023, a legal victory for Josh's family.
Those are Josh's ashes.
For the first time, Crystal thought perhaps there might be justice for her brother's death. And even more importantly,
I thought changes were going to be made. I was really hopeful that after what my brother had to experience, that nobody else would have to experience it.
But before Josh's family would get their day in court, it happened again. January 14th, 2023, nearly 6 years since Josh Devine died in his prison cell, and Indiana State Prison still defending itself against claims it failed to prevent a deadly fire inside B's cell house. But on this day, the focus is about to shift to A cell house. That's where Michael Smith was assigned to cell 252. That's him walking out of his cell. The Indiana Department of Correction repeatedly denied our request to see this video. We got it instead from Indiana State Police, who were called in to investigate what's about to happen next. And at this point, we want to warn you, it's very difficult to watch. Michael walks back into his cell at 10 a.m. and closes the cell door behind him. We don't know exactly what happened over the next hour or so, because like many inmates, Michael hung a sheet at the front of his cell for privacy. But right around 10:55, behind that sheet, we begin to see an orange glow. And about 30 seconds later, we can more clearly see both fire and smoke inside the cell. Keep in mind, as the fire quickly grows, Michael Smith is locked inside that cell. Within 90 seconds, other inmates come to their cell doors to see what's going on.
Once again, start smelling a little smoke.
One of those inmates was Lee Travis Griffin, who had been transferred to A cell house.
After Joshua Devine, I'm always on edge when it comes to fire.
Lee Travis was in cell 358, just about 30 feet away from that fire, and he could hear Michael yelling for help, at least for a moment.
After he screamed for help and that there's a fire, he ain't saying anything else. Everybody's around him loud enough that you ain't hearing him say anything. Everybody else is pretty much screaming, get him out of there.
2.5 minutes into the fire, Michael Smith tears down the sheet and he tries to shield himself from the fire. And at this point, we're going to pause. And when we restart the video, we're going to place a box over part of the cell because what happens next is simply too horrible to show. Just know behind that box, Michael is inside that cell down on the floor fighting for his life as he waits for prison guards to come help him.
Lord have mercy.
The first correctional officers arrive roughly 3.5 minutes after the first signs of fire. By then, the cell is an inferno. The two guards bring one fire extinguisher, and it's the wrong kind to fight this type of fire, offering only a weak stream of water. After a few moments, they retreat and run back down the range as the blaze gets even bigger. At 10:59, 4 minutes into this emergency, it appears the locks on some cells are remotely disengaged. A few inmates are able to run away, others still trapped, including Michael. By the time guards return with another fire extinguisher, more than 4.5 minutes after the fire started, Michael has already been consumed by the flames. About a minute later, an officer is able to pull open the door to cell 252, but the fire is still too hot to get Michael out. A second chemical fire extinguisher, still not enough to fully put out the flames. About 7.5 minutes after the fire started, inmate firefighters arrived to keep battling the fire and to remove Michael's body from his cell.
It's just a box. These are my dad's ashes, and this is how I received him. Just like this. He's in a bag in a black plastic box.
Misty Valencia is Michael Smith's daughter. She says there was no funeral for her father.
When a death like this happens, you don't get that. You don't get that final just... I'm sorry.
Oh,
to show you that it's real.
Did the prison explain what happened?
Not really. It was just a very straightforward, there was a fire in his cell and he didn't get out in time. How does that happen?
Have you gotten any answers to that question?
The Michigan City Fire Marshal also wanted to know what happened, especially after city firefighters went to assist the prison but were turned away. Their dispatch report says Engine 1 crew tried to make entry into the prison. However, ISP staff would not allow any personnel behind the walls.
It seems like it shouldn't happen like that.
The city fire marshal was suspicious.
And I immediately called for the state fire marshal because I felt I didn't want another 2017. I felt the fire needed to be investigated.
Within 2 hours, Jeff Bruder was inside the cell house, right alongside an investigator from the state fire marshal's office. Together, they looked for clues and documented what they saw in cell 252.
What was left inside that cell?
Rubble, charred walls, charred ceiling, no paint. The paint just burned off the concrete walls. Everything's charred.
The conclusion from investigators, it was an electrical and accidental fire that started underneath the center of the bed. In that area, investigators found lots of evidence: burned up TVs, cell phones, and computers. Also among the rubble, melted wires and what appeared to be a homemade soldering device. Prison staff told investigators other inmates brought Michael their broken electronics because they considered him a handyman. And guards also claimed Michael had gotten in trouble in the past for altering a prison outlet, light fixture, and fan. So was this fire triggered by something Michael did, or something he brought into his cell? Or was it caused by a faulty or damaged outlet, the kind other inmates had described seeing throughout the prison?
The flames started jumping out his socket.
Sparks is shooting out. Sparks shoot out the side.
Investigators did find this electrical cord from a computer plugged into the outlet in Michael's burned up cell, but determined it's not a conclusive piece of evidence.
Were you able to determine what caused that fire?
No. There's things that we couldn't rule out as far as electrical.
Could have been an electrical fire.
Could have been.
Does the evidence point towards something else that's more likely than that?
No, I don't believe so.
You see, let me tell you something. They were quick to offer up that information about what Michael was doing, fixing other people's things, but likely he was probably careful. They want to try to pin that on him, but these other inmates talking about they've seen these outlets that are dangerous, sparks flying and all of that, and the fact that it's already happened before. And with Josh Devine's death, that's what it was, basically an electrical fire. So this prison just has not been keeping up with safeguards. They have not been keeping current with inspections and all of that. Staff is ignorant and takes things for a joke and are just, just ridiculous. Like they don't care. This is horrible to even listen to, but let's continue.
While it's not clear exactly what started this fire, it's pretty easy to see the response was quicker than what happened 6 years earlier in the fire that killed Josh Devine. This time, guards arrived faster. They brought fire extinguishers faster. They radioed for help faster. And inmate firefighters were activated, released, and able to respond faster. And while all of that is significant, when you watch this video,
it's horrifying. It is among the worst things that I've ever seen.
This civil rights attorney says you can still see disturbing similarities between the two deadly fires.
Corrections staff are at the critical moment not physically present. They're not physically there where they need to be. It happens in the Josh Devine fire. It happens again in the Michael Smith fire.
Was the response here not faster?
Fundamentally, the response to this fire was not fast enough. He should have been helped, and he wasn't.
And there are other similarities. Inmates say, again, guards did not respond immediately to prisoners' initial screams for help, which wasted valuable time.
You still have no way of getting someone's attention during an emergency. It was quicker than 2017, but just as poor. You still came at a point that the fire couldn't be contained to save this man's life.
And like before, there's also the question of training. while correctional officers remembered to bring a fire extinguisher when they first responded to the cell, they came with a simple water canister, not one of the prison's many chemical fire extinguishers, which are far more effective on a wide variety of fires. It's an important detail included in these quarterly fire drill exams that correctional officers are supposed to be quizzed on several times each year.
Okay, this is just so ridiculous. Let me tell you all something. They have said that in both of these instances, the guards were not where they were supposed to be. So where were they? Where were they? You know where I think they were? They likely were asleep. Okay, they likely were asleep. There has been numerous of cases where prison guards have gotten caught sleeping on the job. Okay? Often resulted in suspensions, terminations, investigations, and other things. So they go to sleep on the job. And remember, both of these fires happened after 10 o'clock at night. Okay, so they were probably somewhere asleep. Okay, let's not forget when I was in college, I used to be the director of security for this company. And very often, if I would pop up at night, because I worked during the day, but if I popped up at night to check on my officers on the night shift, some of them would be asleep. That's why when crazy things happen and people say, well, where was security? They were likely asleep. Okay, that's what some of these people do. This is a darn shame. There was even one time when one of my officers left the property, went home, because he was working from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. He literally left the job and went home. And how do we find out? Because he thought he was going to just come back to work before it's time for him to clock out, but he got arrested for a DUI because he went home and was drinking, apparently. And on the way back to the job, he got arrested. That's how we found out that he left in the first place. And there's no telling how many times he had done so, because that time of night, he's in the building by himself. So I want you all to pay attention, because these guards were not where they were supposed to be. They were likely doing something nefarious, okay? Maybe sleeping, messing around, who knows? Because they have men and female women there. I'm sorry, men and women there, female women. That doesn't even make sense. Okay, so now let's continue, because this is all sounding real crazy. And they're still trying to act as though the prison isn't at fault, or the warden, basically. They tried until the end to act like they didn't have any fault, and then to say that their officers acted heroically. Please.
Also, despite a raging, deadly cell fire 6 years earlier, just like this one, Indiana State Prison still had no fire sprinklers in its cell.
Also, let me say thank you, Nicole, for your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, nice MCK. Stop laughing because I said female women. Okay, at least I caught myself. Now let's continue.
Houses to help save Michael Smith. And those mandatory state fire marshal inspections, the ones that are required every year, we found once again they did not happen. The state fire marshal's office inspected all Indiana State Prison cell houses a few months after Josh Devine died in 2017. But records show during the next 5.5 years, they never came back. And even more startling, we discovered the state fire marshal failed to inspect the cell houses even after Michael Smith burned to death. We learned that when we asked to see the fire marshal's recent inspection reports in the summer of 2024. They told us they didn't have any. No fire inspections completed for those years. Within weeks of our request, the state fire marshal resumed its annual inspections that are required by state law. The fire marshal's office told us it conducted only 2 of those inspections during the previous 14 years due to an oversight. That's especially troubling based on what the local fire marshal noticed as he walked through a cell house on the day Michael Smith died.
What did you see?
Homemade extension cords, some type of charger, homemade plugs.
Are those fire safety concerns?
Definitely. A spark can start a fire within minutes, seconds.
He was in a place that people are paid to keep him safe, and he wasn't safe.
Misty is well aware her dad and other inmates here were convicted of serious felonies. She says that's no reason to look away from what's happening inside.
These people have families that love them and care about them. I don't agree with the crimes that are committed. But again, he was not sentenced to death. And he certainly wasn't sentenced to be burned.
I couldn't believe it when I heard that it happened again. It's just so heartbreaking because these are people that are loved. No matter what anybody else thinks, these are people that are loved and somebody is waiting for them.
The wait for Crystal and for Misty, it's now a wait for change.
We're not going away.
If nothing's done about it, people are going to keep dying.
Next, how Josh's horrible death prompted a historic ending and a new beginning.
How did this happen? Again.
Michael Smith and Josh Devine burned alive, 6 years apart at Indiana State Prison. Their families say both deaths were preventable.
Something happened that shouldn't have happened.
It shouldn't have happened in the first place, but definitely not again.
And their attorney says the prison was slow to take action, even after the first fatal fire.
It opens the prison to the possibility that history is going to repeat itself and there'll be another tragedy.
So, after 2 inmates burned to death in their prison cells, what changes did Indiana State Prison make to prevent it from happening again? Did the prison make any changes to improve fire safety? We've been asking the Indiana Department of Correction those questions for more than a year. A department spokeswoman told me, due to pending litigation, we are not able to do an interview or comment on specifics. The agency did send me what it calls the most current fire prevention practices at the Indiana State Prison. It was last updated more than a decade ago, back in 2013.
Guys, this is an unfortunate tragedy, and it's something that I never want to see repeated here at the state prison.
That is Warden Ron Neal, who runs Indiana State Prison. While the Department of Correction denied our request to interview him, we do have this video showing the warden addressing inmates right after Josh's death. And at that time, he promised changes.
Guys, moving forward, we're looking at several things.
He said the prison would buy a new high-tech fire extinguisher, along with a powerful fan to clear out smoke.
You guys were there, you saw how quickly the smoke built in this situation. So being able to evacuate it is certainly necessary moving forward.
He also announced what's called a prison-wide shakedown, requiring inmates to get rid of excess property, including banned electronics, to reduce the risk of fire in their cells.
Guys, this is not a punitive thing, but this is for your safety. So moving forward, we are going to be going from cell house to cell house or housing unit to housing unit and doing a purge.
The warden said that back in 2017, and a purge did happen. But nearly 6 years later, when Michael Smith's cell burned, it was filled with electronics, raising questions about how seriously the prison really is monitoring inmate cells. And while the prison did get 2 foam compression fire extinguishers, the kind the warden promised back in 2017.
This is the newest thing on the market and much more efficient than spraying water on a fire.
It was still just water in that extinguisher that guards showed up with when Michael's cell caught fire in 2023. The new, more powerful fire extinguisher, that didn't arrive on scene until Michael was already dead.
This failure of training was responsible in significant part for Joshua Devine's death. And remarkably, astonishingly, there's no modification of training in the aftermath of Joshua Devine's fire. You see the same problems recurring again and leading to Michael Smith's death.
I know that I can't rely on these people to save me.
Since the deaths, inmates say they haven't seen many changes either.
No, it's the same. Business as usual.
They tell me the only improvements they have noticed, well, in each cell house, fire extinguishers are now located on every floor, not just down in the officer station. The prison now gives inmates metal boxes to store their property, not cardboard boxes, which are more flammable. and inmate firefighters have all been moved into the same house.
Okay, I don't know why that cut off like that. I didn't touch it. Okay, I don't know what happened. It was like 8 minutes left. Hold on.
Guys, this is an unfortunate tragedy, and it's something that I never want to see repeated here at the state prison.
That is Warden Ron Neal, who runs Indiana State Prison. Take a look at the prison's inspection report from the state fire marshal all the way back in 1918. He wrote, inmate firefighters are housed in different cell houses some distance from the fire station. And he said it's urgently suggested they be housed together, preferably housed at the fire station to save valuable time in case of a fire at night. That urgent recommendation to house all inmate firefighters together was finally implemented 99 years after the fire marshal wrote this report. It happened right after Josh Devine burned in his cell while waiting for help. One of the supervisors who responded testified, I hate to say it, but something terrible had to happen in order for us to get it right. Whether the prison has gotten things right is still up for debate, because even today, it's missing something critical. The Indiana Fire Code says that prisons and jails in Indiana shall have sprinkler systems. Why doesn't the Indiana State Prison have a sprinkler system?
I can't comment on that.
Steve Jones is the state fire marshal. He said for legal reasons,
Comment on
he would
any
not
darn
answer
thing.
any questions about the deadly prison fires. I'll ask it in a more general way. In Indiana right now, what are the safety requirements when it comes to fire suppression systems in jails and prisons?
It would depend on when the building was built.
So let's talk about that. This is when A cell house was built. It's the cell house where Michael died. B cell house where Josh burned to death, that was built even earlier.
Not a lot of fire codes in 1906.
Exactly. What code applies to a building that might be well over 100 years old? Where would we go to find that information?
Many times it doesn't exist anymore. Those buildings back in those days, they never met the requirements. And so they stay that way.
The reality is there were no state fire codes at the time buildings like this were built. State archives show it was the 1920s when Indiana passed its first statewide building code. And even though sprinklers were widely available back then, the state's early building codes did not require them in prisons. That didn't happen until decades later. A new prison or jail being built today would have to have a fire suppression system?
Yes. Any building that people can't self-evacuate, like a hospital, nursing home, jail, those types of buildings in the most current code require a sprinkler system.
But old prisons like this are exempt from the updated codes. No fire sprinklers required. The state fire marshal said he supported a law Indiana passed 20 years ago, requiring all Indiana nursing homes, no matter how old, to be retrofitted with sprinkler systems. Lawmakers did that to protect the elderly from deadly fires, but they did not extend that same protection to thousands of inmates locked in prison cells.
The prison system is our prison system, and the way it operates is a reflection of our values as a society.
I think there should be sprinklers in any building that holds that many people.
Why wouldn't you have that? It's such a basic thing to have. And when you have so many people, there's so many lives at risk.
After Josh Devine died in 2017, incident reports show at least 200 more fires inside the prison. including some involving electrical outlets. And we're not talking about just little fires. These reports show some fires with flames and smoke pouring out of cells, fires resulting in serious injuries and in death. It's something that keeps inmates awake at night.
You have a spark here, a spark there. It don't take much to ignite a fire. And now I'm in the same situation that Joshua Devine was in.
That man died in his room, just like I think I could die in my room. So I think about it a lot.
I shouldn't have to live in a place where I'm scared to go to sleep because I might not wake up because my cell might catch on fire. That's preventable.
But would a jury agree with that? Josh's family was ready to take their case to trial. It was scheduled for this federal courtroom in the summer of 2023. Jurors would get to hear all about the delays with the keys and the fire extinguishers and the firefighters. They would get to hear testimony about the lack of training, about missed fire drills, and about the broken radios. And they might get to hear that another inmate had just died the same horrible death. Turns out, a jury never heard a word about any of it. 3 months before the trial was scheduled to begin in federal court, the Attorney General's office offered a settlement. To avoid going to trial, the state agreed to pay Josh's family nearly $4 million.
That is a significant settlement.
One of the largest inmate death settlements the state has ever paid.
Even after the settlement, money doesn't make things go away. I feel like they took my life away from me. Not only my brothers, but they took my life too. Because my brother should be alive. He would be free. He'd be with me. And I don't get that anymore.
The Devine family reluctantly finalized their settlement with the Department of Correction in July of 2023, 4 days before what would have been Josh's scheduled release date. As part of that agreement, the department and all the defendants denied and continue to deny any fault, wrongdoing, or liability for Josh's death.
And that remains disappointing. But having said that, the state didn't pay nearly $4 million to Josh Devine's family because they truly believed that they did nothing wrong.
Do you worry that there will be another Joshua Devine and another Michael Smith?
I do. I feel like it could be any day.
I do. I think about it often. I think about another family getting that call. And it's heartbreaking.
It's why Michael Smith's family has filed a separate federal lawsuit to hold the state accountable and to highlight what Misty calls ongoing dangers inside this old prison.
You can't brush it under the rug. We're not going away. Changes need to be made.
There is another tragedy on the horizon. There's an ability to take steps to prevent it, but if they're not taken, I'm very concerned that history again will repeat itself.
If nothing's done about it, people are going to keep dying.
Crystal is still speaking out, even though she now lives more than 11 hours from the prison where Josh died. After the settlement, she decided to move south, partly to get further away from what still seems like a horrible dream, and partly to keep a promise to her little brother.
I decided that I was going to go live the life that me and Josh talked about, where the sun shines more, where we can go to the beach any day we want to. When I go, I say, brother, we're here. I write his name in the sand. I feel like I have to live life because he didn't get to. And he deserved to be home right now. So I try to live for him.
So nobody was ever disciplined or anything. This is absolutely crazy. And then in 2025, they still didn't conduct the annual fire inspection. A state fire marshal returned to inspect the prison on January 28, 2026, 5 days after WTHR asked to see the 2025 inspection reports. Do you all hear this? A jury trial to determine whether prison staff and supervisors violate the civil rights of Michael Smith is scheduled for December of 2026. And I will be paying attention because I want to see how this is going to turn out. In 2023, IDOC announced plans to close the Indiana State Prison and move prisoners to a new facility by 2027. Well, they need to. In 2025, IDOC changed course, saying the 165-year-old maximum security prison will remain open beyond 2027, even after a new state prison is completed. What? Cell houses at the new $1.2 billion prison are required by law to have sprinklers. Cell houses they're required to have sprinklers. Cell houses at Indiana State Prison are not. It doesn't make sense to have people who cannot protect themselves not protected. That's what Steve Jones, the Indiana State Fire Marshal, said. Ugh. Oh, so sad, honey. This is a whole lot. That is absolutely heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. Angela, thank you, beloved, for your super sticker donation. I appreciate you, beloved. Peace, love, and blessings. Y'all, this was heartbreaking. All this could have been prevented, and they're still not even seeming to take it serious or even give a darn. Absolutely egregious. Rest in peace to Josh Devine and Michael Smith. I'm so sorry that they died in such a horrific manner. Condolences to their family, friends, and loved ones. With that all being said, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. But before I do, I want you all to see this video that a young lady did. Because remember yesterday when I talked about, or last night when I talked about these raccoons who are all for MAGA, these celebrities. So let's go to this video really quick. This is a TikTok where she's talking about these celebrities who are all about Trump.
Everyone has been canceling Nicki Minaj for supporting Trump. She's not alone. There is a long list of everyone's favorite celebs that support Trump. Nicki Minaj is Trump's #1 fan, so she's first. Lil Pump, Lil Wayne, Kodak Black, he not only got pardoned from Trump, he encouraged his fans to support Trump. Zelia Banks, Amber Rose, Ray J, NBA YoungBoy, Sydney Sweeney, Kanye West, Jake Paul, 50 Cent, Dr. Phil, DaBaby, Anuel AA, Joe Exotic, Rob Schneider, John Voight. The majority of names that I said are from Black and Latin backgrounds. These people deserve to get canceled as much as Nicki Minaj. Everyone likes to focus on one person, but we need to focus on all of them. So y'all better cancel all of these people I just named right now. Cancel all of them. All of
And that's what I'm talking about. We do need to cancel these celebrities who do not care about our interests, okay? And here's the thing. You know what I was sitting here thinking about? I was thinking about Nick Cannon has all of these children. How many children does he have? Like 12? So, but he is a fan of Trump. Did he not see anything in the Epstein files? Does he even care that this man has been incredibly, in my opinion, accused of doing things to children? Okay? So I just find that all interesting. These people are sick. I want you all to pay attention because these celebrities, whether they look like us or not, these celebrities who are down with Trump after the Epstein files have been released, and we all should know what we know. At the end of the day, there's something wrong with them. Are they involved in those sort of things too? That's what we should all be asking ourselves. Because how can you condone someone who's accused of the things that we have read about Donald Trump being in fact accused of? And even the fact that he was friends with Epstein for all this time, for like a whole decade. Okay? I want you all to pay attention. Are these the people that y'all really want to be fans of? because they could be doing the exact same thing as the people in the Epstein files. Okay, please pay attention because I have several questions. How could that not be a game changer for you? Even if you did favor Trump, even if you did think it was in your best interest because of your money, your tax bracket, or whatever, after hearing these things and you still are down for this man, yeah, something's wrong with them. Okay, I have several questions. All right, I have several questions. Now, with that all being said, I want to thank you all. And listen, we already know Nicki Minaj doesn't care about PDF files, okay? Because supposedly her husband was one, and so's her brother, okay? Now, with that all being said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this evening. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And I will see you all in the morning with your morning wake-up call. Until next time, peace.
Yo, Nick, hit him with that flavor. Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got